against it. And I mean, his whole career was this. He was going to stop criminal justice reform. Not because he was, anti-black, just he didn't like it. He didn't want it. And he was in the papers every day. He's fighting it, winning very easily. And I helped him get elected. Without me, he wouldn't have gotten elected. I'll never forget it. I called him up. Now, he's in the heat of passion. He is fighting this all the way. Not something he would ever give up. You couldn't, there's some things you can't. Mm-hmm. I call him up. He gets on the phone. I didn't say a word. I said, hello. And he goes, I'm giving it to you. I said, what are you giving me? I'm giving you criminal justice reform. That's why you're calling, right? I said, it is why I'm calling. He said, you got me elected. I disagree with you, but I'm giving it to you just like that. I said, that's one of the coolest things I've ever heard, because I also have the opposite where I got a lot of people elected. When I endorse somebody in history, and I don't want to brag, but in history, you can get another chart on that one. I mean, I'm like 289 and almost nothing for endorsements. And he said, you got me elected. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for you. And I did, but I got a lot of people elected, and some of them forget. And I said, that's the coolest thing. I said, thank you. I said, do you mind if I call a couple of the... Nope, you do whatever you want. Now, this is a guy who was the leader of the fight. I didn't even ask. He knew what I was calling for because he knew that I was going to help Van Jones, this Van Jones guy. I was going to help him. And you'll understand why I'm being nasty to him now, because what happened later is disgraceful. So I said, thank you very much, Senator. I'm so happy that I did help you. I think loyalty is a great thing. And that was it. So I had his vote. I then called 4 other guys, all of whom were against it. And I said, I'd love to have. And they, they don't do it for a lot of presidents, but they do it for me. And I got them 5 votes that they needed, and criminal justice reform passed, right? Then, and I was happy for them. I was happy for everybody. Everybody was happy. They couldn't believe they got it done. And it was something that really the black population wanted far more than anybody else. I've never even heard it mentioned with other people. It was mostly the black population. And they've been fighting it for like, what, you'd say 40, 50 years, right?
64.
So we got
40, 50 years, yeah.
Yeah. So I got it done. I got something done. I got a lot of things done that nobody else could have gotten done. So what happens is Van Jones and all, they called for a news conference that night. The vote was taken. They got it done. And I said to my wife, come on over here. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful thing to watch. Watch this. This gentleman was in my office a number of weeks ago, and they needed votes, and I got it done. It'll be nice to watch somebody really say something nice about your husband. I said that to Melania, and I said, watch this. And they got up and they spoke, but Van Jones got up, and it was a little... I don't get too embarrassed. He got up. He thanked this one. He thanked that one. He thanked this one, that one, that one. The only one he didn't thank was Donald Trump. And I look at that sleaze bag now, and I say, he's got bad way. I looked at him. Then I saw him last night, and he was on CNN, which is dying, by the way, in the ratings, because they have people like him on. And I watched him last night say how he hopes I'll be defeated. And we should defeat him. We have to fight him. He shouldn't be allowed to be. And I said, normally I'd say I wish I had that vote back, but I did the right thing. But
why do I think he praised you? Why do I think he got emotional crying?
No.
Giving you credit about what you did?
I don't know. All I can tell you is he was crying in my office. That's probably what you heard. Before he got it, he was crying. He was literally, they went over to him with handkerchiefs. He was crying. Tears were pouring down his eyes before. But after he wasn't crying, not that I know. But so he didn't mention me the night of the news conference. He was leading the news conference. And I don't need it. I get mentioned plenty of times, et cetera, et cetera. But I watched last night. It's a good place to say this, actually. It's better than writing out a truth, whatever. But I watched last night, and I watched him talk about how I must be defeated. You know, I'm a bad guy or something. And
Van Jones is saying this.
yeah, he said it last night. I saw him last night. I don't watch CNN. Honestly, I don't watch it. But I happen to be, I'm passing it, and I see him on, and I watched him talking about essentially negative about me. You know, what difference does it make? Nobody cares what they do. They have they've been fighting me for years, and I became president. I did much better the second time than I did the first, and now I'm doing it the third time. And if the election's not rigged, we're going to win. If it is rigged, I guess that's a different story, but we'll find out pretty soon. But I watched this guy last night against me, even if he was a little against me, but he wasn't. He was like, we have to defeat Trump. We have to defeat him. And I've watched him a little bit over the years, and every time I watch him, I say, what a sleazebag he is, what a bad guy. But I did it for black people. I did it for, it was purely, the only people that told me about criminal justice reform were African Americans, that's all. And I did it for them. I also did historically black colleges and universities, and I got them financing. I would see the heads of colleges come down after 2 years. They would come to Washington, like 45, 50 people, a group. They'd always come in, a big group. And I got to know them a little bit because they had to come through my office to get funding. And after the second time, I said to him, why do you keep coming down here for funding? Don't they give you? He said, no, they make us feel like beggars. That was the term. And a couple of them I got really frustrated. Some of them I still see a little bit. And I said, what does that mean? He said, every year we come down for funding for the black colleges and universities. And they play a great role, a very important role, in my opinion. So I said, so you mean every year you come down? We do. We come down together, and we go and see senators and congressmen, and we try seeing a president. But I got to know him, and I said, this is no way to live where you come down. And I ended up getting them more money than they even wanted. And I got it done, and I got it long term. And I said, fellas, I just got this done for you, and I want to tell you a little secret. I'm unhappy about it. They said, why? I said, because I'll probably never see you again. You'll never come down to Washington to see me. And I meant it actually in a friendly way because I got used to seeing them. They were always coming down looking for money. I took care of their needs long term, more money than they wanted. I said, you're going to need more money than that. And I got it for them. And I think that's why black